Welcome to Brews, your go-to podcast for all things AI at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I'm your host, Daniel Duggin, with a bachelor's in computer science pursuing a master's in computer science. In each episode, we'll talk about the ways AI is revolutionizing education. We'll explore how AI is transforming teaching, learning, and our community. Whether you're a student, an educator, or simply curious about the future of learning, this podcast is for you. In this episode, I talked to Brett Fuchs, UTC's Director of Student Conduct, about what UTC is doing to maintain academic integrity now that AI tools are here.
What we're really concerned about is what we can do to make sure that we maintain those same level of ethical standards that we've had outside of the use of AI. So we want to make sure that we are still being appropriate, right? Still giving proper attribution, making sure that even if it's an AI tool, that we're citing that AI tool, right? We're referencing the hard work that engineers and others have put into making those tools accessible.
Have you had any interesting cases of students saying, no, I wrote this, I promise, this is my own work?
One of the things or one of the roles that the folks that work in the Office of Student Conduct is to review that work after it gets referred to help make a determination or to see if there's any evidence one way or another. Are they always successful in that work? Absolutely not. And certainly detection tools help with that, but they're not a solve-all, right? With grammar, if you use a grammar checking tool, for example, is it always going to be accurate? No. Right. Same thing with a plagiarism detection tool. Can it potentially point you into something that is plagiarism? Absolutely. But for self-plagiarism, for example, if you've submitted an assignment previously and you were allowed by a faculty member to reuse that material, that material is then in that database and it could flag that whole thing as plagiarized, depending on the database that you're using. Is it plagiarized? Well, technically not if you've been allowed to reuse that and it is your original work, right? And so the same kind of issues exist with the AI tools that are out there. The AI detection tools, I should say. Some of them work fairly well. Some of them work not so well. I think the hard part is that while we always want to assume positive intent, there are people that do plagiarize, that do cheat, right? So we have to look at it. So we've had a number of cases, not only this year, but in previous years where this has come up, certainly this year more commonly. But we want to make sure that we're still doing the best we can to make the best decisions. In these cases, we actually don't make the decisions. We just facilitate the process. So for non-academic cases, we make those decisions or render those decisions generally. But in academic cases, we facilitate the process, but the process is actually done or decided by fellow faculty.
Let's say we have a faculty member who suspects a student is using AI. What's their process like?
Sure.
Going about getting that process started? And then if you are the student accused of AI, what does that look like?
Absolutely. So from the faculty perspective, the first thing I would do is to take a look at the assignment, think about why you suspect it. Have you suspected it from using a tool? Have you checked online? Have you used the tool available? Then I would talk to the student if they feel comfortable doing so, right? Talk to the student about your concerns. And again, some faculty members don't want to talk to the student at that point, and that's okay, but we highly encourage that. Just as in the situation you talked about, is sometimes you just need that explanation and they can show you and it makes a lot of sense. And sometimes it becomes clear, right? And sometimes just that simple conversation, if a student has used a tool inappropriately, the student's going to take responsibility. Not in all cases, but in some cases. Once a faculty member does suspect something, or if they're just not sure and they want us to look into it, they contact the Office of Student Conduct. So if they want us just to look into it, they can email conduct@utc.edu or any one of the staff members in the office, and an investigator will take a look and provide back some guidance on what they think based on what's provided. If the faculty member thinks it's happened and or just wants to send something forward for further review, they can do the same thing. We have an online form that they can submit, utc.edu/HC for honor code, so HC report. Or they can email us. They can find the link on our website as well. And that'll, again, start the process. That can be then a waiver which is offered, meaning that, we talk to the student takes responsibility if the student is responsible for violating policy. And then the process is done, right? It's really quick and easy. The student takes responsibility and the faculty member decides what they're going to do. That could be, don't do it again. So a kind of a verbal warning to a grade change that they're going to do either on the assignment or in the course. The other processes are two different types of hearings. One is what we call an honor code hearing officer, which is a faculty member from another department that will independently look at the case with the student and with the other faculty member, the accusing faculty member, the person who brought the case, and then make a decision of whether or not a violation occurred. The other option is to go before what's called an honor code board, and that board is comprised generally of at least 3 faculty members and 3 students who look at the case, so both the faculty member who is accusing the student, so the complainant we call it, and the accused student, what we call the respondent, are there. Looks kind of like a court, but it's not a court, right? We're generally on Zoom nowadays, but people can give opening and closing statements. They present their evidence. The board members will ask any questions they have, and then rather than an individual faculty member making a decision, it's that collective board making the decision. But those are generally the options that are out there for folks, and for faculty members to know that we kind of take over the process from there. The only thing the faculty member needs to do is have their evidence ready to talk about what they're concerned about, and if the student is found responsible, what they want to do with that situation. From the student perspective, any student who's accused is going to be contacted by our office, and the first thing we're going to do is bring that student in to talk about process, to explain the process, make sure they understand their rights, and then ask them what happened, and to look at any of the evidence that we've gathered so far, or to provide us with any evidence that they have of why they did or didn't do something, right? So that's one of the things we try to do is look at all of the ways that we can investigate a case as well as help both sides.
So the key, do your work,
Absolutely.
do the research, put the time in, put the effort in, and
use the tools.
You won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, use the tools, but use them the right way.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Again, it goes back to learning. What are you getting out of it? Why are you here, right? You can learn how to use the tool or to build the tools even, but if you don't learn how to do those things, what helpfulness is the tool going to be to you, right? And even in the other fields, I'm thinking again about, workforce. If the tool can replace you, as we've seen with automation over time, it likely will at some point, right? So you have to be able to have those transferable skills to other areas, and be able to do that. If you don't learn those skills, if you aren't learning to be able to apply those skills elsewhere, then you're only going to suffer yourself. And we want to make sure that people are prepared, whatever field they go into career-wise. That's the reason people are here, to learn, to do research, to have a career that they enjoy. But all of that requires different levels and different types of learning.
So if you could leave any student, upperclassman, underclassman, doesn't matter, with one piece of advice to just kind of calm the nerves, what would that be? Yeah,
absolutely. I think there's a couple of pieces here. Number one is, if you get accused of doing something wrong, don't panic, right? The role of the Office of Student Conduct is to first investigate if something happened, right? To try to make a determination. Sometimes that's really easy, right? Sometimes it's very clear, or someone takes responsibility right off the bat. Or they come in and say, here's the evidence that I didn't do this. It's, again, very clear. Either way, there's going to be a process, and we're going to work through that process with the person or persons to make sure that they understand the process, they understand their rights, they understand what is going to happen, what it's going to look like. So the biggest thing is don't panic. Take a deep breath. We'll walk through it with you. The very worst thing that's going to ever happen to a student is they're going to be suspended from school, right? That's the worst thing that can happen. Right. But that's pretty rare, right? You have to do something pretty bad for us to do that. The worst that's going to happen generally is that you may fail an assignment, you may fail a class, and that can be recovered from. People do make mistakes, and that's our goal, is to help people learn.
That was Brett Fuchs, UTC's Director of Student Conduct, and I'm Daniel Duggin. Thanks for tuning in. The music in this podcast is by Blue Dot Sessions. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and until next time, keep learning and exploring the possibilities of AI.